We are on a mission to save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
On the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast, you'll get actionable business advice.
Hear stories from industry leaders,
And share a laugh or two with us.
Fuel your passion for pharmacy.
one conversation at a time.
Welcome to the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Key, president of PioneerRx, and today I'm here with my co-host, Marsha.
Hi, I'm Marsha Bivins, Director of Marketing for PioneerRx. Today we are joined by Breck Rice. He is the Chief Revenue Officer for ServRx.
Hey, Breck.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm going to apologize up front for the
Do you have
I'm not sure what Jeff has drank or
I'm going on low
taken this
sleep.
morning, but
Do you have a favorite dad joke?
Dead
Yeah.
joke?
You know what dad jokes are? They're corny jokes. Do you have a favorite corny joke?
Oh yeah, you threw me there because I do know dad jokes, but I thought you said dead, and
Oh,
I'm like,
dead
man,
jokes.
we're really starting off.
We're
very
starting off
morbid
good. No.
this morning.
So do you have a favorite dad joke?
The one my dad always said because he used to keep bees was, "Do you know why bees buzz?"
okay.
Well, you would buzz too if somebody stole your honey and nectar.
Okay.
All right.
that was my dad's joke.
That was good. That was good.
I don't think kids these days use that term though. Necking.
What do you call a factory that just creates okay products?
An okay factory.
A satisfactory.
Nice.
All right, so welcome to the podcast.
Yes.
I know we're threatening at some podcasts to have everybody bring their dad jokes, and we'll see who laughs first. The laugh first is the loser. We can't smile. You'd have to keep a totally straight face.
I could definitely do that.
It's probably a game that requires alcohol, so maybe not.
I would say yes,
but
because I'm over here shaking my head and going, wah, wah, wah.
it's not a good day if you're not shaking your head at me. Pretty princess. Got it in, I told you.
And that will be edited out. So I know you know Jeff. Don't think I've been acquainted with you. So hi, if you've watched the episode, I'm Marsha Bivins. I'm the director.
Episode. What was that? Was that the Pretty Princess episode?
The Catalyst Pharmacy podcast.
If you've watched a episode.
If you've watched the podcast.
We definitely going to have to do Pretty Princess on the reel.
What did you smoke or drink or what today? Because you were on it.
I'm sorry.
But hi, I'm Marsha. I'm Director of Marketing for
I just see
PioneerRx.
sparkles and twinkly, you know.
There's a backstory behind the Pretty Princess comment.
I just think that would be amazing. All right, well, Breck, welcome
Can
to
you
the podcast.
Put a crown? Just put a crown on her.
She needs a
Daily.
tiara. She definitely
Yes.
needs a tiara. We should have a tiara in your office. You're like,
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
So tell us about Breck. So how did you?
Yes.
And we're gonna do a rollback, right? So let's start with baby Breck, and tell us a little about your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, so actually here in Phoenix, Arizona, was actually born here, but moved away at the ripe age of 3.
Huh?
My parents were both educators, and they had their summers off and would take trips up to
Nice.
Washington and Oregon. My dad's ultimate goal was to save up enough money to go fishing up in Alaska. And so one summer they finally made it all the way to Alaska. On the way back down, they stopped off in central British Columbia, Canada. And they went to church there. They're a good Christian family. So they found a little church on Sunday and met some people there. And they were also transplants from the U.S. that had come up from Missouri and talked my dad into buying a half section of land. And
What is
so
a half
that's
section of land?
880 acres.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had they lived out kind of in the back then was farmland of Arizona down in the Sun Valley there between Gilbert and Chandler. That used to all be dairy farms and cotton fields and alfalfa, and they lived
did
out
they
on
farm?
a few acres.
No, they were educators.
Well,
They
I
were
mean,
I guess they could
educators,
farm
but
too.
but he had about 10 or 12 acres that they, kept themselves as well, and kind of family project. I know my older brothers and sisters, I was too young, they would actually raise calves for the dairy farmers. So they would go get the sucklings when they're just babies and bottle feed them and get them big enough to sell them back to the dairy.
I mean, you could still have an 8 to 5 job and then come home and have a farm. I mean, I married a pig farmer and his parents had other jobs. So,
Oink.
Yep.
All right, so we had 880 acres.
So sold the little farm in Arizona, moved up to British Columbia, Canada, right smack dab in the middle, about 60 miles west of Prince George. And if you look on a map, Prince George is right exactly in the very middle.
Okay.
Little town called Vanderhoof. And my mom continued to teach school. She actually started a private school up there because there were a lot of American kids that would come and go to that school. And that's where I went through elementary up until the 5th grade. Got way too cold up there for my mom. She started to get arthritis. The first winter, my dad got a dial thermometer, one of those that looks like a clock.
Yeah.
And it only went to 60 below. And he came in and he told my mom, "No, this thing's broken. It doesn't work." Because the needle was just shaving. It was shivering on 60 below. And come to find out, it actually gotten below 60, and that's why.
What did we do?
Yeah. It was not a fun experience for my mom, who's born and raised in Arizona.
Well, I can see what happens. You're leaving Arizona in the summer. It's 115, right? You're up in British Columbia. It's 75 degrees and beautiful, and you're like, "Oh, this is lovely. I've found paradise." Summer. Right? Yeah. And then it comes. Winter
and
is
for
coming.
those 6 weeks, it really is like that.
Yeah.
6 weeks of summer, and then so it got way too cold, so they decided to sell all that property, move back to the States. Looked at places in Arizona. By then, I had an older sister who was married and living in the central San Joaquin Valley of California. So there's a lot of farmland in central San Joaquin. Near Visalia, just south of Fresno.
Yep.
And so he bought some acreage there and had just about every kind of fruit tree that you could think of, nut trees, had different varieties of grapes, and it was kind of our family hobby. I was a deprived child, never got to work at a McDonald's because there was too much to do around the farm, and there's always watering, weeding, pruning, or picking. You were picking fruit, and we used it for ourselves. And then when we couldn't use or can or bottle any more of it, then my mom would just call up all of her friends. All the church ladies would come over, and they would pick and can and bottle. But it was fun because we had something that was tree ripe year round. We had like 5 different varieties of peaches that would come off at different times and ripen at different times.
Amazing area.
It was awesome.
My wife's sister used to live in Fresno, and we would visit, and just the farmers market were just crazy good stuff.
That's one of the things that actually I admire about my in-laws, that they've got the patience to plant they do their own tomatoes, and a bunch of other things. And the new thing that they're planting is chili patine, and it's basically these really teeny tiny Texas peppers that you roll it out and you dehydrate them and then roll them out, and they make like a really nice, like, sprinkle it on some eggs, but don't get crazy because it will burn the back of your throat.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I do admire about them, is that they've got the patience to do that. And then, like you said, they'll pick off some and then my mother-in-law loves to make salsa out of her garden. So
I did had a garden once and said, "Oh, we'll plant some zucchini," and we ended up with like 1,000 zucchinis.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay. That's too much. I'm not gonna. And I guess, and my wife grew up putting stuff like that up, and that's probably wasn't gonna happen either. So that was now we go to the grocery store. Oh, that was interesting. We visited, where were we? We visited France. And one of the things that people were saying there is that American vegetables don't taste as good as, that there's much more of a culture of the the farmers market. A lot of more of your groceries are farmers market, and they have a lot. They don't have to have the varieties that have to stay on the shelf that are bred for shelf life, not for taste. So I thought that was interesting. So that might be a reason. So I've thought about playing with like vertical gardening to try to get some different varieties that are actually for taste, not for shelf life or color. Do you do any gardening now? You
Oh, a little salsa garden here or there, and have a fig tree and a couple of citrus trees, whatever will grow here in the desert of Arizona. But yeah, my one of my biggest complaints going away to college was not having all that fresh, fruit and stuff available. Because anything that I'd go to the grocery store and get an orange, and it literally was being sold as a table orange. We would have sent that to the juice plant. It would have been, a coal that would have gone off and been made into orange juice, and they were selling it as a table orange.
Yeah. Huh. All right. So let's fast forward up to college. You undergraduate in business, so you had a business deal going on there.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to actually first be a physical therapist. So my first 2 years was all pre-PT. So I was doing all the prereqs to become a physical therapist. Applied, saw the applicants. They were only taking about 20 applicants, and I was one of 300 that applied. And I knew I was going to sit around and wait for another semester. And so that's when I switched over into business. But that worked out really well for me. Ended up going ahead and getting an MBA as well with an emphasis in marketing. And my first real job right out of college was working for British Petroleum. Back then it was actually American Oil, or Amoco. Okay. And did merchandising for them, so I kind of used my marketing skills to merchandise. My biggest claim to fame is a little product that they were doing a test sampling in Santa Monica, California, and they gave me a case of it to use. My territory was Utah and Colorado. And they gave me a case of this product. It was a drink. I took it back. Back then, I was running marathons. And
so the oil company's making drinks?
No. I was on the merchandising side, so I was bringing stuff into the stores.
Oh, I got you. Okay, yeah, you were helping the stores decide what they were going to buy and sell in the stores. All right, I'm on track now. I was like, this is not sounding tasteful. The oil company's making, but okay.
Now who's the pretty princess?
So I took this product and I tried it, liked it. It worked for me because, after doing a training run of 15, 18 miles or something like that, you're pretty wiped out and don't feel like, going and cutting your grass. And I would drink one of those drinks and feel, hey, this is pretty good. I can go do a couple of things now. So, I brought that to our category manager out in Chicago. I said, hey, I've got this new energy drink. They're like, no, we've got one already. We have that category covered. And I'm like, this isn't like that other one. There was a drink called Hanson's energy drink. You don't even see it anymore. Okay. But it had this nasty aftertaste and was in a green, cylinder, 8-ounce little can. And just it had a horrible aftertaste. I said, no, this one I think has some legs. We should try it out. And they're like, okay, we'll give you some shelf hangers. We won't actually give you shelf space for it, but we'll let you do the pilot in your market. So I had 36 stores right along the Wasatch Front, and I put in ice barrels and shelf hangers, and I told all the CSRs, okay, you got to promote this because my name's attached to it.
Right, yeah. This has got to work.
We got to do something big here. And so we started promoting it, and in 3 months, it was our number 2 bestseller behind single serve. So there were, we can't count the 12 packs or,
right. Yep.
The 6 packs or whatever. Yeah. But single serve, it was number 2, second to only Coca-Cola Classic.
Wow.
Nice.
And so they said, absolutely, bring it in. We'll give you some shelf space, and we'll start to roll it out across the country. So I go back to the manufacturer. They were doing their pilot in Santa Monica, California. And I said, listen, I'd like to bring this into all of our stores. And I'm like, well, we still want to finish up our sampling and here in California first. I said, but listen, what if I could get you into like 40,000 retail stores nationwide? Oh, yeah, we would be interested in that.
Yeah.
So Amicos and BP were the first to roll out the energy drink known as RedBull.
Wow.
Very cool.
So Red Bull's kind of my claim to fame and getting that distributed out through the U.S. here. And they used to send me pallets of it back in the day. If I had if I was doing any recruiting, needed to hire a bunch of CSRs or something like that, I'd just say, hey, I've got a recruiting event coming up. What do you need? They'd give me ice barrels, give me product, and kind of lost that connection to the marketing people when after transferring from Salt Lake to Memphis. I had the connection in Memphis, and then once coming here to Arizona, I've kind of lost that connection. I need to call them back up.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they're not independent anymore. Somebody bought them.
I think they're still independent.
Oh, you think they are still independent? I was thinking somebody had bought them.
Still ship it all over from either Switzerland. No, where's it coming out of? It's coming out of I think Iceland now is a big bottler of it. But
wow.
Now there'll be like 40. You walk in, there's like 40 energy drinks.
Yeah.
All different kinds and flavors and
some of them with a scary caffeine content in it. Well,
you got to do something to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, but one of them had like more than 300 milligrams of caffeine in it. And I'm just like, and this person, God love him, he drank 3 a day.
Oh,
wow.
And I'm like,
well, I guess you build up a tolerance.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but.
Was that Jolt or Bang or something like that? Because those have a really high.
It was Bang. Bang was what he had started. And then he switched over to something else. Because, I mean, every time I saw him, he had a Bang in his hand. And I'm like, how much caffeine is in that? And I looked at it, and I was like, this is 280 milligrams. And then he switched to a new one. He goes, oh, I found a new one. I'm excited about it. And I looked at the can. I was like, dude, this is over 300 milligrams of caffeine just in this one can. And I'm like, how many are you drinking a day? And he goes, 3. Sometimes 3, most of the time 2. And I'm like, you're going to have a heart attack in like 10 years.
It's going to blow up, Yeah.
Yeah, have you checked your blood pressure lately?
Yeah.
All right,
he's a young kid, so.
So we went from there. Where'd you go next?
So left Amico. I was actually transferring to Chicago to take over a jobber program where you actually go help independents run like a corporately owned store out in the Illinois and surrounding areas. And I'd accepted that promotion. And a friend came by one night and he had house flyers in his hand. He was looking to buy a home. And I said, listen, I'm about to list my home right here. And we make you a good deal. And why don't you, come see if this is something that would work out for you. And he sat down and started telling me what he was doing. And he kept saying, we could do this and we could do that. What do you think you would do in this situation? I'm like, what's this we stuff? I'm moving to Chicago. And so he talked to me about this new technology he and his brother had developed to do frame accurate. It was taking DVD content, so MPEG 3 and 4, and be able to create a decoder that was actually frame accurate. So most decoders were, 32 frames would go by, so it's basically per second kind of a thing. And they could get it down to the very, actual individual frame. And then they had wire framing that they could put over the content. So they were layering content over already existing movies to be able to change the genre if you wanted. So for instance, like one of our samples was we took that big epic sword fight in Princess Bride at the top of the cliff, where they're fighting and, oh, I have to admit you're better than me. Well, why are you smiling? Well, I'm not left-handed, and he switches the sword, that whole scene. Well, that was all switched out to lightsabers. So they were all doing it in lightsabers. And when he flicks his hair even flames up. And So it was just this
cool.
fun, interactive content that was layering over. We got space at a community college to do educational content. So watching movies like Saving Private Ryan, there would be pop-ups that would actually talk about the landing of Omaha Beach and details that you could pause the movie and basically do all this research from scenes within the movie. So I left Amico and we did this little startup that was super fun. Did a bunch of media, was on both coasts doing, I did the early show. I did World News Tonight back when Peter Jennings was still
Oh,
alive.
wow.
New York One. I was on Tech TV, if that's still a thing. I don't know, but there used to be a big cable show for techies. And then KTLA is the big one in the Hollywood area. And so I'd gotten a ton of media exposure and even had Larry King from CNN, caught his attention. He was, he and his wife, Sean, they were, interested in the project. So they kind of came on to our advisory board. So now we could contact anyone we wanted. Larry just made one phone call. He's like, oh, you guys need funding? Let me call Ross Perot. So he calls Ross Perot Sr., sends me down to meet with him in Texas.
Cool.
And one of my favorite days of my entire life was spending the day with Ross Perot Sr. Up in his offices down in Fort Worth. Very hands-on guy. His admin was trying to give me directions, and he just took the phone from her and, well, you go on down the LGB highway and you take a left up to the creek. I'm like, okay, he did really talk like that. And just a fantastic, interesting guy. His office was like a museum. He had a really crude-looking ring that some POW had made while in prison camp, while he was out working in the fields, found little pieces of ore or whatever that he could melt down and make this ring. And he had one of the original hand-copied versions of the Bible.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if that stuff's in the, there's a Ross Perot museum here now and I wonder if that stuff's in there.
Interesting. Yeah. Be worth a look.
Where that came from his personal collection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing story.
So did he invest?
He didn't, because he wanted to get buy off from the Directors Guild. So he made a call to Jack Valenti, the head of the Motion Picture Association, and Jack set up a big meeting and got his Directors Guild together, and I went down and presented to him and got to meet people like Rob Reiner and others. I've actually been spit on by Rob Reiner. He was so close in my face yelling at me that spit was flying.
He was yelling at you.
Oh, okay.
They didn't like the idea?
They didn't like us messing with their artistic expression. He didn't want swords turned into lightsabers. And, we used some James Cameron footage where, Jack from the Titanic was laying out on the deck looking up at the stars, and a battleship cruiser flies over. We were kind of Star Wars geeks back then. So, yeah, in fact, the company was Trilogy Studios. So we got caught up in a big lawsuit, not because of copyright or anything like that. It was just literally the directors not wanting their vision changed, and so they just kept, deposing us, ran us out of money, and the whole project got put on the shelf. Never did launch. I'd gotten a ton of media exposure from that, though, and even Columbia University had me come back and speak to one of their departments about, creativity and art forms and stuff like that, and
parodies. I mean, that's
it's interesting because now that is like so big in today's social media culture. You talked about Jack from Titanic, and I actually saw one making fun of. It was basically building up their Titanic too, and they took Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio with some of their other movies, like his movie The Beach, like showing him washing up on shore and passing out, and they're like, he made it, he's alive.
Right. So it was like it was a video meme, right? They were doing video memes.
Well, it was trying to lead up to it was made into like to look like a movie trailer for Titanic too. And like, because they did another
y'all
movie
were just
together.
before your time. You were just ahead of your time.
We
Yeah,
were. I mean,
obviously.
that was still back when there were Blockbuster video stores. You know, you'd go rent a film, watch it the way you wanted to, take it back to Blockbuster, unaltered, unchanged.
I remember those
Netflix was just getting started. They were still sending you three discs at a time in the mail. Yeah.
All right. So where did you go then? So we put that up on the shelf, and you got some media exposure. What'd you do next?
So a company that was thinking about investing in us out of Memphis, Tennessee, had seen all of that media exposure. They talked to the president of the company and said, "Hey, this guy out there in Utah of all places may be a good fit to come in here and help us with this new healthcare division that they just got involved in." So the company was owned by Kimmons Wilson, the owner of Holiday Inns. And Kimmons started to venture out and do little, he started getting into buying properties and that were not associated with the hotel industry. And then that got him into a little investor group that wanted to get into healthcare. And they bought this little third-party claims processing company that they wanted to grow. And so the president of the company reached out to me. I needed a job. I said, "Great, let me fly over to Memphis and see what you guys are doing." And they were in this little strip mall and had all these people packed in this little call center thing. And I was just like, man, this place is in shambles. I don't know if I want to go work for them. I'm leaving this big, 10,000 square foot incubator space that a university had given us, where my office was meant to be a conference room. So I had a full conference room table and desk, and I'm going to see this little cubicle they wanted me to put in to start this whole new community pharmacy division. I'm like, community what's a community pharmacy? I knew nothing about the industry. But they saw something in me and they said, "Yeah, I would like to have you come and start this whole industry." So I needed a job. I moved out there back in 2003 to Memphis and started working for a third-party claims processor that was helping community pharmacies get a fair reimbursement on specifically their workers' compensation claims. So if you think about it, all the different plans that are out there, the payers that are for, employee benefits and everything, even Medicare, you pre-enroll into those plans.
Right.
So everyone's eligibility during, at the very start of it, during the enrollment period. But with workers' comp, it's a little different. Every employer has to carry it for their employees, but you don't actually get enrolled into the program until after the injury happens. Okay. So there's this 3 or 4 day lag before it's even on file with Liberty Mutual or Travelers or Hartford. And so this little third-party company steps in and takes that risk off of the community pharmacy. Go ahead, take care of those patients. If they've been hurt on the job, take care of them same day, no hassle, no delays, no out-of-pocket expense. So pretty easy program to go sell to community pharmacy. Say, "Hey, sling that headache over to us. We'll take care of it, pay you up front whether we collect or not." And so we had a really good run of adopting and bringing on all these community pharmacies. We had one competitor that started up, ironically, out of Utah, where I had just moved from.
Traitors.
and even the one of the board members was like, they thought I was a spy from that company. You brought this guy from Utah. I was like, I don't even know who these people are. I've never met them in my life, but. The Wilson family grew it as much as they could. Then they brought in private equity, actually a company that wanted to also get into healthcare themselves. They were in banking industry, Fiserv, the financial services company out of Wisconsin.
Okay.
They came in and decided they wanted to do healthcare, and so they were buying up these PPOs and other programs, and they saw this third party billing piece as being a good fit, and then they brought in private equity and still kept a minority ownership in us. But the Wilson family pretty much just sold off. So we had a few name changes, and every time I'd show up at an NCPDP meeting or NACDS or NCPA, they're like, "Okay, what's the name of your company now?" Yeah, because it had gone from a third party solutions company to something with the Fiserv name in it, and then finally a big private equity came in, and so we changed the name again. That gave us enough capital to go buy our competitors. So now we've merged those two companies together and had an office out in Salt Lake, which made it great for my summer vacations because my wife's family is all from that area. So we'd take summer trips all the way from Memphis to, those 2,000 miles. We'd drive the kids all the way across the country back to Salt Lake. They could hang out with their cousins and their friends for the summer, and I'd work out of the Salt Lake office during those summer months. So that worked out really well. When you have that much of a focus of all the first fills coming into this funnel of one company and taking care of all these out-of-network self-insured employers, that becomes pretty attractive to the big PBMs, the big pharmacy benefit managers. So we started to get on the radar of those folks, and they could see how they could make millions and millions of dollars by funneling all of that into their own networks. And so that was kind of the direction that they were going. I saw the writing on the wall. I hadn't signed up. In 12 years that I was there, I made some wonderful friends in the industry. Working with PSAOs and buying groups and working with individual, small chain owners and even larger chain owners and just made some really great friends that became family to me. Yep. And now I saw the direction of where this company was going. And I'm like, man, I can't go to the dark side. I just can't do it. And so I left, and my going away present was a TRO. Have you ever had one of those before? They're really fun.
Oh,
yeah,
what?
A sheriff, a TRO.
TRO.
Temporary restraining order.
You haven't had one of those? No, I haven't had one of those.
No, a sheriff's deputy shows up at your door and knocks and has a whole thing of papers there to hand you, and they basically put a gag order on you, so that you can't go tell all your friends in the industry, hey, you remember those $50, $60, those $90 reimbursements you used to get from us? Well, now they're going to be like $3 or $4. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's what the gag order was all about. So, I had to honor that. And after it ran its course, we just built the very same program that was in place before, that's completely independent of any PBM, any private equity. We built the new and improved third-party program, which we call ServRx, and we've been running this company now for about 13 years.
Oh wow!
And working with community pharmacies all over the country. And it's getting harder and harder because those PBMs keep forcing people into networks, and they keep bundling those networks. And as we start to talk about true transparency in PBM contracts, you talk about those gag clauses. So this was clear back in 2013, 2014, somewhere in that era. That was before the gag clauses got removed out of even the pharmacy contracts. So that didn't happen until 2018, right?
Okay.
So up until 2018, a pharmacist couldn't tell their patient, I know you have a copay here of $34.75, but the cash price is only $12. They couldn't tell a patient that. They were contractually obligated to collect that copay to make the pharmacy benefit manager billions of dollars. Yeah. So that was 2018. That finally got removed. I think the next big opportunity for true transparency is getting that unbundled. Unbundle those networks because they're not the same. It is absolutely not the same to process a Medicare script or a healthcare script as it is to process a workers' comp. It's not the same program, and you can't treat it the same.
Right. So ServRx is doing workers' comp with pharmacies. So can you explain that? Explain that how that would. So I'm a pharmacy who doesn't know anything about what you do. Tell me how that works.
Yeah. So we step in as a third-party claims administrator for any patient that walks in and says, I got hurt on the job. For any patient that walks in on crutches or arm in a sling, you hope the staff, says, hey, God, what happened to you? And you ask a couple of questions because they may not even know their rights as an injured worker. So we step in, give them a BIN, PCN, just like any other payer plan that they can use as the default processor. So on that day one, most patients don't have any kind of a PBM card or anything to even give the pharmacy. So they now have our BIN, PCN. Doesn't cost them anything to set up the plan. We're contracted with all their PSAOs, so they're probably already under contract. If they're not, then they just do a claims assignment agreement with us, but it doesn't cost them anything at all. It does cost them probably about $50 or $60 if they don't use us, because that's how much more we're reimbursing them than the PBM contract.
So how can you reimburse more?
Because we bill at the state fee schedule. So whatever the state of jurisdiction, wherever the injury occurred, we then bill at whatever that state has established. So the State Industrial Commission establishes what the usual and customary reimbursement is for that NDC in that state based on the fee schedule. So we bill at that and pass that on to, in most cases, it's like, 85% of whatever that fee schedule is. So we have this little 15, we never get that. We usually operate off of like a 6 or 7% margin after collections because we have some bad debt in there. But we guarantee them that payment up front. They get it in 30 days, even though it may take us 120 days, 6 months, 2 years to collect on that. We've made the pharmacy whole up front. So yeah, it's absolutely no cost to them, but it's a cost if they don't use us.
Right.
And so that's why they do like to use us.
And so the other PBMs that are doing that, maybe the X company you work for, they're paying based on their normal PBM rate, and they're pocketing the difference between that state rate and what they're paying.
Yeah. In workers' compensation, it's anywhere from $80 to $120 that the PBM is putting in their own pocket. So the pharmacy that bought the medication, that has the staff, that has the overhead of a facility, electricity, everything, they get $4. The PBM gets $100.
So how are pharmacies inadvertently using that other PBM today?
Well, they're held hostage by that PBM. If you want United Healthcare, if you want those 64 million lives in United Healthcare, you're held hostage to take all of their networks. So you're going to take Optum, you're going to take Catamaran, Cypress Care, Timesys now. They bundle it all together, and you're stuck in that contract if you want to take United Healthcare.
So the patient comes in. Let's say a pharmacy not using you guys. The patient comes in. They have an injury, and they just put their normal insurance card down. And then their insurance company figures out that it's workers' comp and bills a difference. Trying to understand the other scenario.
Yeah, if they don't have a third-party processor, the pharmacy they could inadvertently put it through their health plan, but they're not supposed to do that. So if it's identified as workers' comp, it's got to go to a different BIN and PCN. And so the work comp. Whoever the employer is, whoever's employer's TPA, third-party administrator, or PBM is, it's their responsibility to get a card out to that patient that's injured so they can bring that work comp card to the pharmacy.
So I am the employer, and you were injured, and I say, hey, here's our workers' comp BIN and PCN, and you use this.
Yep.
Okay. So they come in with their BIN and PCN from their employer.
Yep.
I have to take that one.
if you're in network with them, if you're contracted with them. If you're a self-insured employer group that just says, here, use this bin and PCN, and you walk into the pharmacy and the pharmacy they can look up in their system and say, oh, we're not even contracted with this employer. That's when you need a default processor like our program in order to process that. And then about a third of all workers' comp ends up being a self-insured, self-administered plan. So you're going to need us for about 30% of all work comp claims, regardless if you're in every network, just because it's self-insured, self-administrated. But for that other 2/3, the other 70% of workers' comp, eventually you're going to find out, oh, it belongs to Express Scripts. Oh, it belongs to, Catamaran or whoever one of the three big. And Express was the very first one to actually cancel they had a separate work comp network, and then they had their Express comp. So back in the olden days, when we were sitting down and contracting with pharmacies, back at my Memphis company, you'd tell them, hey, listen, I know you've got Express Scripts, and back then I think it was Medco was their big payer, but you carve out that rider for workers' comp because you don't need it. So we got enough pharmacies that were carving that out and saying, okay, we'll take the health side and Medicare side, but we don't want the work comp side. The Express Scripts got smart enough and said, well, let's just cancel that network, bundle all those patients right into our other, Medicare network, and make a few extra points. And then everyone said, oh, wow, what a genius idea. Let's do that. And so that's why you have, PBMs that make 130 some odd billion dollars a year, and they don't even own the drug.
So if the employer doesn't offer health insurance to its customers, right? And let's say they went out and had bought insurance on their own. They don't have the workers' comp. So if an employer is uninsured, or if the employer's insurance is out of network, like self-insured, they just have a health administrator. So like, I think we're self-insured, but Blue Cross Blue Shield administers it. That would be, so how does a pharmacy figure that out? Is there something you do to help them figure that out? Or they just have to know, hey, I use this bin and PCN if they're in one of these cases?
We figure that out for them. So if it's not identified that they're in network, they just send it to us. We verify every claim that comes through the door. So we know exactly who that payer is at the end of the day. And, back to your dad jokes, Jeff, it doesn't matter how much money the pharmacy makes or how much they lose at the end of the day. You know what you have? You have night. There's going back to your dad joke. There you go.
You brought it home. I like that.
No, but we figure that out for them and let them know, oh, hey, this now belongs to, or we've identified and verified this claim that it now is, XYZ payer that you're in network with. So we do that for them. So
how do you get your word out? What percentage of pharmacies, independent pharmacies, use you today?
About 20,000 that we're contracted with. We may, actively using this. Maybe it's 10 to 15,000 pharmacies. Not every pharmacy sees workers' comp. They may not have a patient for 2 years, and then one comes up, and then they're scrambling to figure out who do we have to process this. So we attend all of the national conferences, make sure that we have a presence there and staying in front of people. And then we've launched during COVID here, we've launched other consulting services to stay relevant with our community pharmacies. So we launched this roundtable. We have one coming up today here in a couple of hours. We call it a Community Pharmacy New Revenue Roundtable. And we've partnered with these amazing companies that bring, either new technology, new products that the pharmacies can be offering to generate new revenue streams.
Wow, that's cool.
That started during.
Is this like virtual, or are they invited to like actually come to location?
Do it all over Zoom. Yeah,
Okay.
we just do a virtual roundtable.
Interesting.
We have 100 and some odd people signed up for today's to go through. And we're starting to talk about all these new clinical services that they should bring into their community pharmacies. We have partners that'll help them get credentialed so they can actually get fair reimbursements for those services. So like most people have adopted, giving flu shot. But if you give a flu shot as a pharmacy and submit that to United Healthcare, you're going to get $23, $24 for that. But if you're a credentialed provider and submit that flu shot, you're going to get $120 for it. So we help these pharmacies figure that out. Here's a way to maximize your reimbursement and get treated as a true healthcare provider. Because the big payers see pharmacists as, they're kind of the second-rate citizen, and so they throw it over to the pharmacy desk and they treat that differently as out of network. But we help them get in network as a clinical service, and that all started with COVID. So we have COVID to thank hey, you need to get involved in testing. If you want to survive this, you got to start testing. You need to start administering vaccinations. Okay, well now it's not just COVID, somebody has a respiratory virus. Well, you should be testing for that too. So now there's these combo tests that are available to them where they can test flu A, flu B, RSV, COVID, all in the same test. And then it just expanded from there. We found this technology, the very first of its kind, that has achieved the not only patented, but the FDA approval to be, so now that's important, right? Because now if it's approved by the FDA, we can
that's
now
hard to
bill
do.
for that.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's this medical device that does this amazing thing for patients where it increases their vasomotion, their circulation by 30%. You're getting more oxygen and nutrients at the cellular level.
They turned down the thermostat.
Yes, if you hear us sniffling, it's because
It's cold in here.
It is cold.
I'm thinking my blood's moving.
Which is why he's extra.
All right, so keep going.
pretty.
Sorry. So we had this device, and what's it look like? What's it do?
It's a small computer that has two ports on it. One has imagine like a really high-end yoga mat. But the yoga mat has coils in it. The patient lays on that and gets this improvement in circulation all through their entire body. Or there's attachments where you can do spot therapies. So like if somebody's got a rotator cuff, you just put it right on their shoulder and focus on that area.
Is it magnetism or what's it putting through the body?
Bioelectromagnetic energy. Bioelectromagnetic energy. First of its kind to get FDA approval. Professional athletes have been using it for years. The San Francisco 49ers are advocates. They use it. The Diamondbacks here in Phoenix use it. A lot of pro athletes, Mike Weir, Phil Mickelson. The list is like super long.
And who invented this?
It's a German company.
Okay.
It's out of Germany. German engineered, Swiss design.
And so y'all are marketing that in the United States? Is that?
We're just introducing it. We're introducing it to pharmacies to set up these health hubs, because there's actually this whole program, this new health hub that can compete with minute clinics, with the Village. You saw that Walgreens just spent $8.9 billion on the health systems to compete with Minute Clinic. Our independent community pharmacies will blow them out of the water. Both of those Minute Clinics, they're still looking at healthcare, at treating the smoke. Oh, let's take care of the smoke. They're not doing anything about the fire. And we see technologies that are actually preventative. They're actually getting in there to the cellular level. If you trace back to where disease states come from, over 90% of them come from where? Come from inflammation and poor circulation.
Stress.
That's over 40,000 diseases come from that microcirculation area. So you have these patients laying on these med beds. It's another company we bring in, the BioLight guys.
Yeah, we've had them on the podcast. Yeah.
The patient walks out of that session, totally electrolytes 100% at par, hydrated, floating on there. The med bed gives them an increase in ATP, that's energy in your cells. So they feel euphoric.
Do you
they're
like
looking,
the BioLite? I know you're going to say yes.
I do.
Which is your favorite flavor?
Yeah,
Sorry,
what's your favorite flavor?
I think it's the berry.
The
I think
berry.
it's berry's
Okay.
my favorite.
Okay.
The melon is growing on me. It was a little strange at first, but yeah, I think berry's my favorite.
Berry. Okay.
I think melon was the one that I tried.
That was a little strange. Maybe we'll have to try berry.
Yeah, maybe we have to try berry.
So what's the name of the mat? See, he's drinking it on drinking it on the screen. Is that the melon that you were drinking?
No, that's the berry.
That's the berry. Okay. Yeah.
The
So they're all different. They have different strengths of electrolytes and different flavors. So we'll have to try a couple of different ones when they're at the show. So what's the name of the mat?
So it's bioelectromagnetic energy regulator.
Okay.
But they just shorten the acronym to BEMER, Beamer.
Beamer. Okay.
Yeah,
Beamer.
I thought about it. The one that we saw in London, there was the salt rocks in it that they were using as also the heat pad, because you could see in it, and it wasn't electrotherapy like what he's talking about.
Yeah, so this electromagnet, is there any heat or anything in addition to the electromagnets? Just pure, I'm not feeling anything.
Yeah, people will express that they feel a warming sensation, but that's probably just because they had horrible circulation and now blood's flowing. But the technology is so advanced that there's a collaboration with NASA right now to embed it into the astronauts' spacesuits.
Oh, yeah.
Because they could stay in zero gravity longer. You know, if you stay in zero gravity too long, you get sick. You get space sick. Yeah. You need that gravitational pull. And this is being built right into the suit now. The athletes are using it for recovery, right? So if you have a really hard game, you built up a bunch of lactic acid, or you may even have micro fractures. You know, if you're a quarterback that just got hit over and over and over, Tom Brady, he uses that device.
Yeah.
It actually heals those micro fractures as well. So the studies are incredible. Most of them come out of Europe. Because they're using it over there in the hospital systems. They put it in babies' incubators over there because of the, preemies, because of how it helps with the whole regeneration of cell growth and everything. But, why did it take 20 years to get FDA approval here in the U.S.?
Because FDA approval takes a long time. We see a lot of stuff. We try to go to one international pharmacy show a year just to kind of get out of our box and get a perspective about what other people are doing.
And it's interesting, the different products and services that are being offered in other countries that just haven't made it through FDA approval yet here. Like
that they're like, yeah, we want to offer in the United States, but FDA is just going to take time kind of stuff. And so it's interesting how that gets reformed. All right, so if people want to learn more about how they might attend these roundtables or something like that, where do they go?
Yeah, so we always post them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a big communication channel for us. And so there's an event page on LinkedIn that talks about the Community Pharmacy New Revenue Roundtable. They can reach out to me directly as well. A lot of people know my superhero that works for me, Jessica Jones. The Jessica Jones series on Netflix, Marvel,
yes,
superhero.
I was sitting there going, okay.
How do I know that name? Yeah. No, she
I
works,
was like,
she works.
can I meet her? Can I get her autograph? Is it the actual Jessica Jones?
She works for us, and so a lot of people know her. She's very active on LinkedIn, and that's where we mainly put out the event. But now we're starting to get the PSAOs to start communicating it out to their members and the buying groups, communicating that out. There's one other technology I got to tell you about too, because it's not just all about, hey, come in here for this session to lay on a med bed. Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about doing pharmacogenomics and actually deprescribing medications, because we're finding so much about, especially in our elderly, about drug-drug interaction. Or
have you found a payer though? We've been talking pharmacogenomics for a while, but it's been hard finding a payer.
Right.
Yeah. We're starting with Medicare. With our elderly, we're starting with that as the payer. I say we collectively because it's all everyone.
Bunch of people doing it. Yep. So Medicare pays for that now?
They're paying for it as long as there's criteria, right? It's got to be in either a psych drug or a heart medication. The patient has to be on 3 or more medications. So there's criteria that have to fit for it to be medically necessary,
Mm-hmm.
and then their PCP can order that as a necessary. Or I launched this little campaign about scary drug facts, and it's gone viral. And so I get people asking me all the time, "Oh, my mother just got put on this medication. What should we be concerned about?"
Yeah.
And I'll go look up what all this, from the manufacturer, what are the listed side effects. And that particular one, had the basic, could have some stomach aches. You could potentially have diarrhea, constipation, just some of the common
Normal.
things
Yep.
in medication. But then when I looked at the drug-drug interaction, the list was like 150 drugs. I'm like, it's not the side effects that's going to kill this lady. She's probably on 3 or 4 of those other medications.
Mhm.
Right.
That's what they need to be looking at. So
Yep.
there's
Yeah.
got to be a good, happy medium for payers to go ahead and pay for that test, because it shows us so much into what
Right.
that patient can metabolize and what they can't, and then what those drug interactions are.
Absolutely.
We have a technology that presents that they take your normal blood CBC and lipids test, and they run it through an AI software that starts to show markers of areas where you may have future problems.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how incredible is that to know, hey, you're going down this road. Let's turn the corner before you get there.
Yeah.
In
Well,
a disease
and to
state.
case in point that I did a pharmacogenomics test just for fun, and it turned out that
You're a pretty princess.
it did not say that. No, but there was a prescription that I was on, and it said that I was. It said you're a rapid metabolizer of this specific drug, and I was like, I'm actually on that drug. No wonder it only works for 30 minutes.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
if I had not taken that test and gone to the doctor and go, yeah, it's not working, what's plan B, she probably would have just increased my dosage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parents that have kids that they struggle with that are on ADD medications and things like that, this tells them so much. I mean, this has been a lifesaver to a lot of parents where they just
Mhm.
couldn't figure out the right, biological help
Yep.
for their child until they got that DNA test done. So much could be done with the technology. We have another technology partner that comes in and does mobility. Virtual mobility.
Mhm.
It gives you a score. So like
Okay.
if you're, it tells you these basic exercises to do. Lift your arm over your head, and it shows you the
It's a range
picture
of
how to
motion.
do it.
Yeah.
And maybe you can only go this far. So it gives you a mobility score, and then the AI tells you what exercises you need to do on a daily basis to get to full, range of motion.
Interesting.
Some really cool technology that we present to
Yeah.
these community pharmacies. They can bundle it all together. They can partner with this health hub. The health hub has got the coolest name in the world. It's the Fountain of Youth. The one bioelectro machine has been proven to extend life, and so that's where that name comes from. Hey, if we can extend life, this is the Fountain of Youth. So it's FOY, F-O-Y, for the Fountain of Youth, FOY therapy. And these little health hubs can be just dropped into anyone that has they have any clinical space, at their community pharmacy. And when they're credentialed, the revenue that this little health hub can generate for them is like $20,000 plus a month in additional revenue that they're missing out on. And that's why they need to come to our roundtable and learn about it.
Well, Breck,
Wow.
our thermometer's banging at negative 60 below, and we're out of time.
Cold now. I was getting shamed for bringing a blanket in here.
You were.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been
we are
nice
at our
meeting you.
hour.
So enjoyed the time, and look forward to now touching base when we see you at NCPA and NACDS and catching up on what's current. And maybe we'll make one of your little roundtables at some point.
Yeah,
So
I
it'll be
was
fun.
gonna say I would love to get an invite to one of
Yeah.
the roundtables, and definitely get your product, get ServRx at Catalyst Connect this June.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And what do we need to do to just get OEM embedded right into PioneerRx? We ought to just have our bin and PCN right there in your software.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
yeah,
And see what that how that would help them. We also have a switch, so there are some things that would help. That's kind of the question around,
that's why he was driving
What?
so many questions, because his
About-
brain was like,
well, no,
what can I
if we're
do
already
with
connected
this?
at 20,000 pharmacies.
Yeah.
But we'll have
Yeah.
follow up. Send me an email. We'll have follow up and see. It doesn't seem like that'd be hard to do. So,
Mm-mm.
all right.
Yeah, no. Be
Nice
great.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.